It's nice. It always feels good when people show up.
This is now streaming.
Okay. Great. So I'll wait for it to hit 1:15 on the dot, and then I'll start. Okay, we're gonna start up. I hope everyone had a great morning and good lunch, and I welcome you all to the afternoon session of the crash course. It's the fourth time. It's our fourth crash course. It's something that we really enjoy bringing to the Pratt community, and we've expanded it well beyond the community. I'd love to see how many people who are here who are not from Pratt. Fabulous. That's so great. Doesn't speak well of the Pratt people as much as it speaks well of the community. However, we have to work on that a little bit. Anyway, my name is Deb Johnson. I'm the Executive Director of the Center for Sustainable Design Strategies. I also run the Pratt Design Incubator and have been working on opening the Brooklyn Fashion and Design Accelerator. One of my real goals in life, I've been a long-time person at Pratt. I was an industrial design professor. I ended up being a chair. I was a student here before that, and I've had a long career here at Pratt. And one of the things that's really important to me is what happens when people leave school and start to pursue their own lives, taking their talent and turning it into viable businesses. So entrepreneurship is just a really important characteristic of what I believe students need to go out into the world with. To be able to go out there and turn your talent into a career is really important. So today we're going to be talking with two of the companies that have been in the design incubator for 2 or 3 years, and there are also people who are shifting over to the accelerator. And I'm going to be talking more about both of those things in the next session, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here on that. But the goal really is to look at what does it mean to start a business, what does it mean to integrate sustainability into that business, what are the challenges and obstacles to doing that, and where are the successes along with that as well. So the two companies that we have here are Design Hype and Tiffany Burnett, who graduated in 2008 from the Industrial Design Program, grad program here at Pratt. And then Alderney New York, which is David and Nina, who are going to speak after Tiffany, who graduated in 2010. In fact, her company was called 2010 for a while. And I think it's an interesting story to listen to how they've shifted as they've gone from being students with one idea of what running a fashion company is to what it's turned into and why it's turned into what it's turned into. So both really interesting stories. After each speaker, we'll have a Q&A, so you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. And then once we've wrapped that up, we'll sit around and talk about entrepreneurship kind of as a group together. So with that, Design Hype and Tiffany Burnett.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Design Hype, or Tiffany Burnett. I'm kind of both all the time. I graduated in 2008, like Deb said, from Pratt, and I started Design Hype actually in 2005, right after I graduated from an industrial design program at the University of the Arts. And I was young and didn't know what I was doing, so I went back to school and then really started it after Pratt. And I'm going to take you a little bit through what I do. So I'm doing a little bit of rebranding, so I'm going to be honest. This is a little bit new for me. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the empowerment side of things, and then later we can talk about how I connect and educate. But I'll tell you that we use design to connect, educate, and empower female travelers so they may explore and experience the world in a state of bliss. And the way that I do that right now is through empowerment, and later in my career, hopefully connecting and educating. So why am I doing this? So this was a part of my thesis at Pratt. And these are actually slides from my thesis. I thought this was appropriate for today's presentation. What I found when I started researching about women in traveling is that they have certain fears. We don't all fear everything, but there might be like one little thing that you're afraid of. You know, maybe you're afraid to stay in a hotel by yourself, or maybe you're afraid to get in a cab at night by yourself or something, or you're not comfortable without traveling with one particular item. You have to have that thing. Maybe it's like a little charm that you carry on the plane or something. So what I found was that there was a little fear in all of us, all women, about traveling, and that makes sense. I mean, there's a lot of issues that I could go into about why, but that's what I focus on. But what I found was, just because there's fear, we can't really focus on that, right? We have to focus on the positive side of things. So what I want to do with Design Hype is take those little fears and create something positive from that. So create freedom and liberation. And right now, I do that through product design. So this is actually an interview that I did for my thesis and a slide for my thesis as well. I redid it a little bit for today. But the way that I design my products is through interviews with women. And this interview was with Beth Fuller. She's on the left with her feet in the water, and she's having fun and loving it. And one of the things that she was really uncomfortable with was carrying a map and looking like a tourist, whether it was in her own city, like New York, or traveling anywhere. So that was a big problem for her. So I took that and I made it into something that was accessible, that you couldn't really, you didn't really know what it was if you were like far away from that person. Maybe you're like strapping on your hand on the subway, thing, and you're like looking at it, trying to find your way. So that was my first product that I did at Pratt during my thesis, and I took that from the thesis and I started my business. And I've been doing that for about 5 years. I have a bunch of cities now: New York, London, Chicago, San Francisco, LA, Paris, London, all of these things. And that's what I do right now. That's like the fancy shot. So I want to talk a little bit about, what that means now, because, it's funny when you start a business, and like when I first started, I wasn't really connecting or empowering or educating women. I was just like, I have this idea and everybody wants a cuff from me, so I'm going to just do this cuff and like see how it goes. And for years, that's what I've been doing. I'm just like, okay, so I'm just doing this thing and selling my cuffs and just trying to push them out there and get them out. But I've had like a really hard time with that, and Deb kind of knows, like the struggle, the internal struggle of like not committing to like what you're doing in your life. And so I started to rebrand and actually commit to my thesis finally. So I did this like a few weeks ago, actually, so it's kind of cool that we're sitting here now. I don't have to go through all of these things, but I've committed to like definitely working with female travelers, definitely empowering them and connecting them and educating them. And I've created a mission statement and a mission for my company, which I hadn't done before. I'm telling you all this because if you plan to start a business, it is easier if you have a vision and a mission and some values. You won't get stuck making one product for 5 years. Not that it's been bad, but it's definitely been like a struggle because you don't know where to take your company next. I can go through these really, really quick. So we use our creativity to design meaningful, purposeful, smarter, and safer solutions to provide a sense of companionship, comfort, security for female travelers, to address and highlight the emotional, social, behavioral, and cultural challenges and barriers that female travelers face, to connect female travelers like-minded. So that's like kind of the next stage, is try to get us like working together and talking so that we feel comfortable maybe like going on the next journey, to create positive, playful, and exciting, insightful learning experience through storytelling. So, however that is, however that will foster itself, I guess, and to introduce products that are mindful of the environment and are cross-culturally respectful and appropriate, because we're talking about a very global thing here. So that's the mission, and some of the values are very similar. And we don't have to go through all of those, but if you would like to, me to answer any questions later, I can. But they're very similar. So that's it. We're done, thanks. Sure. Absolutely. If anyone has any. Oh, sure. Oh, yes. Great question. Yeah, so definitely now that I've solidified that, I was able to go back to my thesis and I had designed 9 products from that. So I'm going back to 2 products specifically, and I'm working on those now. I don't want to give too much information away, but they're more of the education side of things and the empowerment. And again, like eventually I'll start working on that connecting side, but it's a little big right now, so I have to try to like see where I can focus on things. So yeah, there should be some new stuff out in the summer. Any other questions? Oh yeah, go ahead. Let me see if I understand your question. So are you asking if the luggage will be designed specifically around the idea of the city? Hmm. Some of it will be just be by the nature of you know, travel. It makes sense. So I can give you a little bit of an idea. So one of the things that I've been thinking about doing is, you know, I'm really interested. One of the reasons why I'm so interested in female travel is because I believe that like, the more women travel, the more we can connect with one another and really bring that, you know, learning experience, you know, and education back home, and like kind of change the world that way. We're nurturers by nature, so I feel like we can really have a big impact. So my goal is to get every woman like out there traveling and sort of making a difference. But for one of the products that I'm thinking of doing is, and maybe more, are just like kind of connecting with women's organizations, maybe sex trafficking victims, and using a product, maybe they sew it or something, but using that as a way to have a conversation about how that affects travel, because women do travel and they are sold as sex stuff. You know, this is like, this is real, and you know, it's not, we don't talk about it. You know, we just kind of like go and we're like, oh, we're going to London, you know, no big deal. But there are things that happen, and we should be supporting like other women who are having those things. So that's kind of, I don't know if that answers your question. So, but there's a little bit of education in there, definitely city-specific stuff. So I hope that answers your question. I'm not sure, but that was long-winded. Sorry. Go ahead.
How did you decide to market? Did you do that yourself, or did you?
Sure. Yeah. So again, I went to design school for like 6 years. You know, I kept like going back and back. So I never took a business class or anything. So when I got out of Pratt, I had no idea what I was doing. I just was lucky, I guess, maybe like pushed hard. But I exhibited in a design show and got published on like 200 blogs. I just really got lucky that day. But I was also coming out with something very different, like, you know, who has a map on like a stainless steel cuff? It's like kind of weird. So I got lucky in that. And, you know, after that kind of dies down, that's when the hard work starts. Because you're like, oh, sales, you know, things are going great. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, what's happening? There's nothing going on. So that's when you have to start learning, okay, now maybe I need sales reps, or now you have to take marketing classes. So there's definitely education that comes into it. I've taken lots of courses and like just read a lot of articles. But yeah, and now I have people helping me for sure. I have sales reps and stuff like that. But still, every day is a learning process. I don't feel like, I mean, I know a lot more, but sometimes it feels like the further I get in the company or in the process, the more I feel I need to learn. It's like, it's funny, like with wisdom comes like this thing where it just keeps growing. It's like the universe, you know, it's just like, what? So, yeah, anyway, yeah. So, yeah, good question. They're made in China. I had a really hard time finding a manufacturer in the U.S. I still do, and I was going to wait for this question, but I'll talk about it now. I would give a little bit of a suggestion. If you're going to design something and you want it to be made in the U.S. and like local or whatever, do it before you start, because once you have that stuff in production and people are ordering, it's harder to stop production, what you're doing, and look for someone else, because you have timelines and now you're actually running the business. So it's, and especially because it's been just me for about 5 years. I mean, now I do have 3 people working part-time for me. But you know, it's tough. So once that momentum gets going, you kind of wanna stay down that path. So they're made in China. They're stainless steel. So you know, that was a conscious decision about recyclability. You know, you can scrap stainless and things like that. And I can also offer suggestions about working with China. I work with a Disney certified manufacturer, so they have all kinds of crazy standards that they have to abide by, which is great. And so, you know, there are ways to find a manufacturer in China that are doing, you know, better than some that are not, you know, looked at, or, you know, that kind of thing. So, yeah, that's the answer. Any other questions? Deb.
I'm really interested in the process of getting to the mission statement. And how do you start that? What was some of the dialogue process?
Sure. That's a great question. So, how did I start the mission statement process? So, you know, I was like, oh yeah, I know what that is. I know what a mission statement is. No, you don't. Like, you're like, yeah. And I was like reading all of these mission statements online, and you know, you first thing I'm like, oh, go to the Apple mission statement. They're gonna have the best one in the world. And then you realize that like their mission statement is not the right one. Like, it's the one that's out there is not their true internal mission statement. That's secret, top secret stuff. So that was interesting. And then I started like researching. So who has the best mission statements? And then I started finding, okay, mission statement and vision statements, how are they different? So a vision statement is something that is your future, so what you want to be. Your mission statement is kind of how you're going to get there. So if you follow that formula, what I found is if I know kind of where I want to go, so we connect, educate, and empower female travelers to, you know, explore the world in a state of bliss. How do I get there? Now I can go to my mission and I can kind of define those key points. So kind of working backwards, that helped me. Ben & Jerry's mission statement is amazing. And it's used all of the time in like books and like articles and everything. So that's like, if you want to start somewhere, go to Ben & Jerry's mission statement and really start digging into that. I'm not kidding. It's concise. It says every single thing that they need to get out there to like their stakeholders, their customers, every single person. You can just, it's so brilliant. So I tried to do that. You know, I wrote it like 10 million times before I was like, is this concise enough? Does this make sense? Is this where I want to go? So, and I actually see it as a work in progress. The mission statement here is like, there's some things that need to be changed and the values, but it's kind of the essence right now, and so, you know, I'm working on it.
Perfect. We're going to have more opportunity to ask questions later. So
thank you.
So now I'd like to introduce David and Nina Zipka, David Krause, who have been who graduated in 2010 from the fashion design program here. They're probably, other than Tiffany, the most ambitious people I know. They work so hard, constantly. They not only run their business, they're both faculty here at Pratt Institute and teach courses here, and Nina works for me, helping me sort of do what I'm doing. So they're a non-stop business partnership that I respect tremendously, and I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Nina.
And I'm David.
And we're both the co-founders and designers for Alderney New York.
So I thought before we dove into what we do with Alder, we might talk about how we graduated from Pratt and then started our first company called the 2010 for when we graduated, because all of that kind of defines how we created this company with a much clearer vision. So Dave and I both met when we were sophomores at Pratt, and we immediately started designing together and found that we were a really good team. And we also had a third student and business partner. We weren't business partners at the time. We were just sort of all designing together, and we created a collection sort of outside of our schoolwork junior year, and ended up showing it not even during Fashion Week, sort of just randomly, and we're lucky that a store ended up coming to it and placing an order. So all of a sudden we had this job to kind of figure out what does it mean to place an order, how do we produce this, and just really dove into it. We didn't even have our company formed yet at that time. And then after that first sale, we decided to call the company the 2010 based on when we graduated, looked online on how to form an LLC, which we did through LegalZoom.com, which made it very easy. And then by the second collection, we just started emailing press. Just as students, and we're lucky that Women's Wear Daily came to that one and ended up putting us in a big spread and on their website. So by that point, we were just kind of steamrolling ahead, and when we graduated, again, we were very lucky to meet Deb and get a space at an incredibly subsidized rate, a studio space, which is sort of a huge thing about being a designer in New York, is finding that magical space. So that first year after graduating was kind of figuring out how do we run this company, how do we survive while running this company, and do we like what we're doing as a company? And we had a similar situation to Tiffany, where because we hadn't planned this company from the beginning with a mission statement and an idea of what we were doing, and had just sort of gone along, you know, actively pushing the company, I think a year in we were like, oh, we don't necessarily agree with what we're doing right now. David and I both strongly felt that we weren't creating products of quality because of the nature of the fashion industry, and because we were pushing things out to be doing it with the seasons and doing this women's wear. It was just sort of shoddy craftsmanship, I think, is how we felt about it.
I think because we didn't really research anything, we were kind of pressured into fitting into this kind of bigger classic model of fashion, where there's a lot of show and a lot of flash and not a lot of substance, and really got caught up in that. And at one point we looked at each other and go, what are we doing? We don't like what we're making. We don't believe in this. We need to kind of reevaluate what's happening.
Yeah, so at that point we did. So our third business partner, who we remained, you know, very friendly with, sort of went his own way because he did want to keep doing this sort of type of fashion, and we really sat down with Deb and with the incubator and said, what is our mission? That's really where we started, exactly like Tiffany, was defining our mission, and that changed everything for us. We're big proponents of, I believe it's Kevin Starr, it might be Kevin Starr, but the concept of target, verb, plus outcome, so a very cohesive, concise mission statement that makes it really easy to always go back to what you're doing, regardless of what what Tiffany was saying, what the end goal is. It's still, are we doing it with this sort of conscious choice of getting there?
It kind of guides you in all your decision making. If you have kind of this one sentence that can really focus you, and no matter what you're doing, you can figure out, is it right to our brand and what we believe in?
Yeah, so art.
What?
No, you say it. You're right. He's better at remembering it.
Well, we produce quality products for people. It's kind of really general and basic, but it really is important to us because we are doing a menswear label right now and a apothecary label, but we have hopes of being a women's wear label, possibly children wear, home, bedding, anything. But if this one simple mission statement can kind of really fit all those possible directions we can go.
Yeah, we realized for us quality, which in our internal mission statement can get expanded, but for us quality meant well designed, because that was a big part of quality, made with integrity, so that meant for us local production. Currently that very much means local production. We're not opposed to going outside of the US or the tri-state area for that, but we would have to be very clear on where our products were being sourced and how they were being made. And those two things together really define our brand. So should we talk?
Sure.
So that kind of leads us to, to our Alderney New York apothecary line. So again, this is something we sort of stumbled upon and went with, but shortly after closing the 2010 and having launched Alderney New York, I personally became very interested in beauty products and grooming goods and how many chemicals are in most of those products. There's no FDA regulation on any of that stuff. So really you could be putting whatever a company wants onto your face and into your body. So originally I don't like washing my hair, and I wanted to create a dry shampoo because I used a lot of baby powder. I wanted it to be talc-free. I didn't like how sticky the baby powder got in my hair. So I just started playing around with a lot of different materials, and David's my best friend, so I was sort of involved in creating that as a fun project when we were at home. And then after the fourth person was like, oh my gosh, can you make me a bottle of this? David was like, let's design a really cool label and put it up on the website, on our Alderney, New York website. And immediately, similar to Tiffany, we just got really lucky. Refinery 29 saw it, asked us if we'd do a sale, and we sold for $100 in a week. And at that point, we were kind of scrambling, doing it in our kitchen, really just trying to produce as fast as possible. We kind of got stuck in a similar situation where we used a bottle that I had used for myself, sourced from a sustainable website. It's recycled glass from Spain, but not cost efficient, and not we weren't able to expand as quickly as we'd want to.
It wasn't exactly scalable. We're actually currently redesigning a package, redesigning a bottle that we can scale up with, that we can actually access. Right now we're really struggling because we can't get our bottles.
Yeah, we can't meet demand right now. And that's, again, you can't always foresee what's going to be popular, but if you can go in there knowing and sourcing your materials with this idea of scaling up, it goes back to sort of figuring that stuff out at the beginning. But unfortunately, sometimes you stumble onto something and you just have to kind of go with it, and there's something to be said for that as well. So once our hair powder was sort of in, Urban Outfitters and Anthropologie and a bunch of boutiques throughout the U.S., we were like, let's expand to doing lip balms and pomades, which are also doing really well. All made with, our products are made with beeswax, shea butter, different essential oils. You really could eat it. I don't recommend it. It won't taste good, but you could do it. And this summer we're going to, we have a schedule, but this summer we'll be expanding the line even more. So for the holidays, we'll have some other really cool stuff.
It's going to be a face mask and moisturizer. It's going to be very exciting. Go to alderneyyork.com during holidays and purchase.
Just a quick question before you go on scale. Can you define why this bottle wouldn't scale?
Mm-hmm.
They aren't able to make them quick enough. It's really just so simple that they can't make them quick enough, and we're buying it through a distributor, and they don't have control of what's happening with the manufacturer.
Right, so there's a middleman right now that's kind of bottlenecking the whole process, so we need to be going straight to the distributor. It's unfortunate because it's a beautiful bottle, and we totally agree with the ethos, but it just doesn't work with our scale.
Yeah. So we make men's clothes. We make really awesome men's clothes, all made here in New York. We follow a season schedule like most fashion companies. Right now we sell our clothing through our website mostly. You can see here we have some things from our spring collection, some fall, and we have a t-shirt of Lupita Nyong'o because we're obsessed with her, and that's available on our website as well.
And I think you can see here, part of one of the reasons that David and I are so, we love the fashion. I mean, there's parts of the fashion industry we maybe don't like, but I think for us, one of the really exciting things about working locally is you create this community of other designers, and that's the best part of being a designer. The glitz and glamour are great, I guess, if you like that stuff, but our silk screener is based in Williamsburg, and we have a really great relationship with them now. They're also young designers who are doing a really amazing job with their company. Our embroidery is done here in New York. Again, we have an incredibly great relationship with this awesome sort of New York guy who's been doing this embroidery forever and works with Ralph Lauren, and is just so knowledgeable and so nice. There's just a really wonderful community that gets built, and it's kind of exciting, I think, right now to be a fashion designer in New York, or working with all these manufacturers, because there's this real, as the BFDA kind of indicates, there's this real movement happening to bring this manufacturing back here, and it is genuinely exciting to be a part of it.
It's definitely, I think, one of the most enjoyable parts of being a fashion designer and doing the production stuff that most people don't like, is that you really get to meet kind of masters of what they do.
Yeah.
And that's a really rare and special thing.
Yeah. So this is more of our pieces. Again, you can kind of we really pinpointed The hats are made by this new company that started. They also have an incredible story, which I won't, it's too long to maybe get into. But again, young people who are reviving the fashion manufacturing industry here in New York found this old abandoned hat factory on Flushing Avenue and were like, became friendly with the person who was shutting it down. He'd been doing it for 60 years and was all his production had all the orders had gone overseas. And they were like, let's do this. Let's bring this manufacturing back here to the U.S. And they're doing it. Again, they're super young. I don't think they necessarily knew what they were doing when they dove in, but it seems like they're doing really well. And they're so passionate again about the craftsmanship and what they do. And it's exciting sometimes to just go in there and like talk about different finishings with them because they like are nerds about that too. Our ties are made by one of these like masters of his craft. He's this old Jewish man who's been in the garment center for, I mean, maybe 100 years. He's so old.
He looks like he's ancient.
And he makes everyone's ties. Like Tom Brown's tie is made by him. Like Rag & Bone's tie is made by him. And he just knows everything about everything and is lovely. And it really makes, I mean, I would never want to not have that relationship. Right. It's the best part about doing this here. Just again, more of what we do. I guess it's a good time to talk a little bit about menswear and why we switched over from womenswear.
Yes. So when we actually started Alderney New York, we were coming from womenswear, and we kind of just brought the womenswear with the new company, with a few men's pieces here and there. And as we were going along, creating the womenswear collections, we were kind of getting really frustrated that each season we kind of had to have a complete new collection full of different styles that the women customer wasn't interested in having the same style repeated. They didn't want that same shirt. They wanted a completely new one. And we were at a point where we're trying to design a new collection, and we're designing it, and I go, Nina, I wish we were just doing menswear. And she goes, why aren't we doing menswear? And we talked about it, and we realized menswear makes sense for us. It makes sense as a small business. We're able to repeat those styles, and we're really able to take the same shirt, say that short sleeve Ben Friend shirt right there, and work on it every season until it's perfect. We get customer feedback. They say it's a little too small, this is a little too long, this is a little too tight. We fix it, we work it, and we get it perfect. Just switch up a few colors, put a few color blocking, something like that, and you can really create a perfect product, which really goes back to our mission of creating quality products.
Yeah, and that's it. Thank you. So I guess we can answer any questions if anyone has any. Yeah. Yeah, with our old company, with the 2010, we did do that route, and it certainly wasn't not helpful, but I think we have both found that at our scale, a really amazing PR company can cost upward, in fashion, can cost upward $5,000 a month, and we can't afford that at this point, and at the price that we can afford it, we tend to do a better job than the PR person's going to do. And we'd heard that from other fashion designers and kind of had to learn that ourselves. But press isn't that hard to get. Sales are hard to get. So I would encourage you to put the money into sales in fashion, or really anything before PR. Oh, well,
sorry.
For us personally, that's an experience, and it's very much a fashion-specific thing we found.
Was there a particular assignment or something at Pratt which inspired you to go in this direction?
No.
No.
No, I mean, I think the great thing about Pratt is that there is a real entrepreneurial spirit, and being in Brooklyn, and just I do find that there's a lot of really amazing things coming out of Pratt, and it's because of that sort of DIY mentality a little bit. So that would be the biggest thing, was that there was a lot of encouragement about doing our own thing.
Yeah, so we have factories in Midtown, we have some in Long Island, we have some here in Brooklyn. It's all different places, and you go to who does it best. You know, you don't want to be taking your button print shirts to someone who knows how to make hats. You want the hat person doing your hats and the guy who does the button prints doing the button prints.
Yes, Deb.
So for me, watching you work, because I've known you for a long time now, how does the creative process work for you? What's your process of developing lines? You're unlike Tiffany, who's doing the bracelet and her line sort of develops and expands. You're adding every season to your goddess product. So how do you dig into that?
I think Dave and I are both very inspired by our environment, and with fashion, it's constantly like you're done with the first collection, and then you're going on to the next one. So really, the minute we're done with that, taking the photo shoot and meeting with the sales, different stores from the last collection, we'll sit down and be like, what colors are you feeling, and have you pulled any different inspiration? And then there's sort of a formula where like you need to have your shirts, you need to have your pants, you need to have your jacket, you need to have your outerwear, and we sort of make sure as we go through kind of designing that we're hitting all those marks. But it's definitely a blend of real art and design, I think, for fashion, or for what we're doing right now.
Where do you source your fabrics from?
A lot of our fabrics are coming from Japan, because there is very few quality textile mills in the United States.
Yeah.
And a part of our mission is to create quality products. We do source our wools from Woolrich Wool in Pennsylvania, which is really exciting, because they're still making quality fabrics, but most of it's coming from Japan right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the mills have closed in the last 15 years because of everything moving overseas. But hopefully I'm hoping they come back.
Yeah.
All right, I think that, anyone else have any questions? Oh, yes.
How's it going?
How what?
How is it good
Well, I think that what needs to happen is that the much bigger companies need to show an interest, and that's starting to happen. So Ralph Lauren has taken a big initiative. Eileen Fisher's taken a big initiative.
CFDA.
The CFDA, yeah, the Council of Fashion Designers of America, has started to take a big interest and are looking to bring things back here. Until that happens, or until that started to happen, it was just not possible. It's going to be a long time, but there's starting to be some real interest. It's also become more expensive to produce overseas than it used to be as things become more first world, and people start demanding higher wages overseas, so it's starting to make a little bit more sense to, or not be so cost efficient to go overseas. Mm-hmm.
I was wondering why you think that doesn't exist. I feel like I've seen shopping around as a woman. It does change all the time, and there's never a quality product. There's no solve for it.
There really isn't a market for it. It's really a psychology of men and women, which we study a lot because we're designing for men. Men are generally, they find something they like and they want it. So you'll find the same style of pants years and years and years and years, because the man wears the pants out and then gets the exact same pair of pants. We like that. It means they're consistent and we can keep the same product. A woman wants a different shirt, wants a different print, wants a different cut. The styles are changing quicker, and they don't want the same thing every season.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly want to design for women. That's something we see. We're already designing some things for women coming up. And I know I'm that customer, but I don't think it's such a huge customer base. Yeah, totally. I think there are definitely some women. It's just not a critical mass.
So are you suggesting then, because menswear doesn't change as often, the quality is at a higher level?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's had that development and that iteration?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, without question.
No question.
There's more of a tailor mentality as well.
Yeah, men expect that their pockets are going to work. Right. They're just like, yeah, pockets have to work.
Yeah.
And women have fake pockets.
Yeah, they have fake pockets.
Yeah. In H&M pants, they're not real pockets, and that's okay. So.
Other than the fact that you have this live, it exists, and pay rent and all that, is there an underlying why you're doing this kind of direction in business? Because obviously there's quite a bit of fashion out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we wouldn't say there's a dearth of fashion. So just curious to see what is the where are you going in your future with this?
What's our future plan? I think to be a lifestyle brand, I think we're really not so fashion specific. We love fashion. I think it's undeniable that we're really passionate about it, and I'd be unhappy if I wasn't doing it, and you would as well. But we want to have it all. Like, we want to be doing home, and we already are doing apothecary. So I think we see our brand as being pretty comprehensive going forward. Yeah, sometimes we use organic fabrics. There's some issues. There's a lot of water usage that goes into organic fabrics. I think with sustainability in general, there's never one clear answer, and you really have to analyze what makes the most sense for what you're doing at that moment in time, and organic isn't always the way to go. Making it locally isn't always the way to go. So the quality is more important for us, right? Then, so we'll source from Japan if it means that we're not getting some crappy fabric here in the U.S. So we do sometimes use it, but that's not our first issue.
So are you saying that organic cotton is more water than cotton?
There can be issues with that. Again, it depends on who you're sourcing it from, and I think that there needs to be a lot of research into where you're getting your fabrics, and it's not as simple as just checking the organic answer on the mark.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's a lot of things that that I would say to someone who's starting out. But sometimes you just have to do it yourself and kind of figure it out and make the mistakes that other people warn you are going to happen. You know, it can be hard to find the right fit for a business partner. That can be an issue. I would say it's pretty hard to just, for most people in design, because there's not a ton of money that you can get from venture capitalists. Definitely not in fashion design. I would say hold on to some other sort of job for a little while, you know, a part-time job, because it's going to be hard to make a salary the first year or two.
It's going to cost more, and it's going to be harder than you realize. That's kind of my advice.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. I think what we can do is sit around the table and just open up the questions a little bit more.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So I love that last remark, David. This idea that it's going to cost more and it's going to be harder than you ever realize. I would agree. I think one of the things that we find with businesses when they're starting out, and the incubator really, you know, pretty much has had people starting out with ideas that have developed into products. And you just learn a whole lot about how persistent you have to be, how sturdy you have to be, how much you have to hang in there, how resilient your passion needs to be for what you're doing. It's one of the hardest things to do when you start a business. It's just hanging there, right, and work through it. But I think on the other side of that, there are great outcomes. So talk a little bit about why you like being an entrepreneur.
I mean, I love the freedom. Definitely. I realized when I was working in corporate America that I just couldn't work like somebody else's sort of time. I don't know, maybe it's the rebel in me, like I have to just do my own thing. That, and also when you're a designer, I mean, maybe some people here can relate, and you guys can definitely, when you're working for someone else as a designer, you're kind of really restrained by trends, what's on trend, like copying other companies, what they're doing. Unless you're a really cool firm, it's hard to decide and define like what you're designing. So for me, that's really important, is to just make my own path, do what I want. We only live once. I'm just not doing what everybody else wants to me. I can't do it. Yeah.
How about you next?
Doing it ourselves, I think we like terms
at any time if people have questions, feel free to jump in. So one of you is partnership, one of you is sole proprietor for the most part. What are you, why those choices? Is that, are you looking to expand to the point where you bring on a partner? Or are you looking to sort of, go out on your own and do solo albums? Why, how does it help you be in your partnership or not?
Again, I think it's like this rebel thing that I have going on. And like, if you meet me, you're just like, no, that's not her. But I really have that thing. Like, I love working with people and working with other people, but I am the leader. It just is that way. I don't have that any other way. Anytime that I'm working with people, I end up being the leader. And if I'm not, I can handle that, but that's where I feel comfortable. So if I had worked with a partner, it would probably be like a silent partner. No, but I mean, they do exist. They're just kind of like helping you get out there and everything. Maybe eventually, if I needed, I have considered that. I've thought about it. I've read a lot about co-founders. If I really wanted to go into tech, which I love, it's like a passion of mine. Yes, like definitely. Just because it's very isolating to be an entrepreneur, especially as I guess as a woman in New York. There are a lot of women entrepreneurs, but people around you don't know what you're going through, even other entrepreneurs, depending on where they're at in their stage. And since none of us are in the same stage of our companies, you're very isolated. You go through like crazy depression, then you go through like crazy happiness, and this could happen in like an hour. I'm not even kidding. Like, where you're like the happiest individual, and then you get an email, and you're like, the world is falling apart, and like, what am I gonna do now? And like a little of that is liberating, and some days, I'm just like, I'm closing up shop. I'm gonna like become an expat or something, and then I'm like, no, I'm not. Like I can't do that. No, I just love this. So it's kind of a whirlwind. Like it's a roller coaster. Definitely. You have to have like the grit, right? They always talk about grit, and like it's so true. You need that.
And how about you? Because you guys have been partners since 2008.
Yeah. No solo album.
Yeah, no.
But I mean, I wouldn't want to work with them. I think the date is like something special. I mean, we've also lived together for a lot of that time and almost never fight, and we'll disagree, but it's a really healthy conversation. Definitely I could not have done this by myself. The emotional toll was just too high, and it means so much and I think we're really good at when one of us is really down, people up. And I think also if something's not working, kind of like when social depends, there's a really great person I can bounce it off of who's in the exact same spot. But I also, if I didn't have David, I don't think it's hard to find that person that you have that relationship with.
Finding a partner, I think, is really a huge decision, and really has an enormous impact on you. Well, do you have different roles? I mean, are you always sticking and talking through everything, or how do you split the work?
We pretty much do everything. We essentially do it all. Working from everything. I don't think it's an efficient way to do things, but it's the way we do it.
I would say she's we're lucky because I've met tons of partners who do the same thing and do argue because they want the control, and so I would suggest if you are looking for a partner, finding someone who has not your skills. You want to look for someone who is bringing the value that you don't bring. Maybe they bring the sales and you're the designer. And we've seen that just from being in the incubator with a lot of other companies who are starting up with partners, and they're doing the same things, and you're like, and it's just, they're not quite working. These two work amazing together. I sit across from them. So they're perfect, I wish.
We have a question up in the corner now.
Yeah, and what you were mentioning about being on your own path, do you think that there is maybe a balance in that? Because how much would it found from that?
Or maybe my question. Yes. You know, I say that I'm alone, but I mean, my mother is like my sort of news guide person, so she's helped me the whole time because she's an entrepreneur herself. So like, she's pushed me a lot, and I couldn't have done this without her. So she is kind of the silent, person who made this happen. And my sister, who's now like working for me, which is really funny. She was like also, helping me. And there's a support system. Like, all of us need that. As entrepreneurs, you have to have a support system. You need to like know who to reach out to. And those people that you really, really trust. And yeah, of course, if I was completely isolated, there's no way that I would be like.
Your family.
Yeah, definitely. And friends, like these guys like sitting across from me. And being an incubator, of course, like that's why we're there. I needed that too because I was going crazy in my apartment by myself because I worked by myself for years. I was like, I'm gonna like kill myself. I'm just arguing with myself all day. I need to get out. So
That was the whole reason I actually started it. That's really lonely to be an entrepreneur. You don't really have any need to get out of your pajamas necessarily. And you, for years, especially with the internet and our ability to communicate and all of that. So, and there's something about having a community of people who are like-minded, who are looking at how they can produce product more sustainably, who are asking questions, who can be guides for each other, and bounce questions off of each other. Really important to have that kind of atmosphere around. I know, a lot of people in the incubator talk about how they never would have done it if the incubator kind of wasn't there for them. With that community, it's not that space as much as family. Because you do have these people who you go to and so and struggle. Somebody help me out. I'm going to let you ask a question. I have questions for the audience.
I just wanted to tell you, but just the thought for the future, I find that I don't connect with anyone on a personal level. I just feel like it's business and then being personal. So it's like a weird place, like with the medium. I don't know, it's like find someone like a Match.com for like business associates. You have like your personality and who you can catch up with. But in a lot of ways, in a lot of ways, it's like finding a lifetime partner.
Nina, you just said something really interesting. It's like they'll give you an idea of how you look at starter campaigns, and all of a sudden, actual property that's just being thrown out, to be fished and turned, somebody else can take the idea and move it forward. It's really important to kind of go into that territory wisely.
just to your point though, I mean that's like brilliant. I mean, LinkedIn is so corporate-y like feeling. Like where do we fall into that? Because I've been like, oh, I need to find this like buyer on LinkedIn. I mean, what? No, they're like never gonna answer. So is there a way that you can connect with them like as a human and not as like a resume? But you know that you're connecting because it's like work passion related maybe? I don't know, but yeah, that's needed for sure. But
I just want to ask a question.
What's the life?
Day-to-day.
It's pretty. I mean, it varies, and the designers in space really vary. You know, every designer views some wave energy, fashion, jewelry. I mean, it's a real gamut of different people who all are just very like active in the company. But I'd say like it's always busy. There's always somebody working. Even if it's not full work, there's always somebody coming on Sunday for somebody's there working. It's pretty jovial. Everyone's really happy to see each other. It's a really nice group of people, but it's making sure that takes in place. I think it's just a very warm. I think it's a really warm environment.
I think it is a big part of, I mean, it's a big part of who she's the gatekeeper, right, when it comes to and like Nina, meet with these people, let me know what you think. And she sort of gets a sense of whether or not they'd be right for this space, whether they'd be good neighbors. You need people who are going to, because it's an open space, you need people who are going to stuff, who are going to respect what you're doing, who aren't going to play loud music and
respect the fact that other people being quiet. And I think it's a great mix of people.
You had not, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, it was just a two-part.
Oh, actually, he was almost finished.
We'll get back up to you.
Have that right there.
Yeah, very similar.
Again, it's very much about community, who share values and who are in the same boat at some level. Was there another question?
You had one, right?
Yeah, I did. No, I was just asking them because of PR. Do you think that there's a lot of people in my background that they have that advantage where they don't have to plan themselves. And some people don't. Some people like they get so lost in the idea that they don't. But I feel like PR has a life of like the frequency to start your business and that's it and get the idea. Do you feel like you guys have the advantage because you came from design background or because you're so good at or because you're that?
Oh my gosh, we have such an advantage. In the fashion department, I took a business class, or we started a business class there, and I had a week of branding, and I was like, no, you guys can get this just inherently. And that's so true. It's like in design, because you get that like the typeface all needs to look good, and everything needs to look good presenting, and so I think it's just a very inherently key position as a designer. So like I look at my parents, I'm like, God, you guys need to talk to your people. They don't understand why they need to look certain way. So I think there is that design.
Definitely. I mean, there's a lot of advantages to being a designer and creating a company. I mean, just as like a business owner, you kind of, again, you get the idea that there's a process, so it's not like cut and dry, you're not just in business. But also like knowing the manufacturing process, so there's like so many things that go into it that I look at some people who are not designers and I'm like, oh, how are you going to do this? Because you need to hire a graphic designer, now you need to get your product done, like, now you have to hire an engineer, all these things. We're just so well connected in that way because we like have this free education. So yeah.
So I wanted to turn it back kind of onto the audience and to other people in the room and just kind of get a sense of how many people out there have their own businesses right now. Right, so we've got some experts in the room from starting that, and I'm interested in hearing about that. How many people in the room are interested in starting a business, who see that in their future? That's great. And such ownership, you know, it's great.
What kind of, like, conceive of how the company was?
Oh, say that again?
Finance.
Yeah.
What's the problem with getting the things project finance?
Right. I know for us, it's always a challenge in fashion, and we're lucky we created a apothecary product that sort of funds the fashion part of it, because there's so many other parts of fashion that aren't so much just making sales. There's also PR and the trade shows and all of that stuff. So, but that has been our plan, was to create products that had high, that we can make a lot of money from, that sells really well, and to make constant, we want constantly designing.
Yeah, so financing, again, I was lucky enough to have a family who was willing, my mom basically, she was like, okay, I'll give you this money, but you have to pay me back. So she gave me a lot of money. I was really, really lucky, and it took a long time, probably about 2 years, for like full funding, $25,000 a month sometimes, before I started to be profitable and saving money all the time, being very frugal, watching everything that I buy. And that's like the good thing about being, like having sort of a sustainable like lifestyle too, is that you care, so you're not being wasteful. So that actually comes through save a lot of money that way. But yeah, I mean, it's business, so you have to remember like there's a cycle. So you, for years, usually before you become profitable, and it's true, it happens to most people. But yeah, if you want to get backing, I mean, I would have never been able to do it without my family, for sure. But I paid them back, so it wasn't like free. I said, I promise I will pay you back. And my mom would be calling me like, did you make money yet? You know? And it was very frustrating. I was like, why did I do this? Why did I take her money? Like, she's gonna drive me insane. Like, sometimes I wouldn't talk to her for a while. You know, I was like, she's, and then I'd be like, I need a check. Like, I have this big order, I need to, you know, but yeah, very lucky.
She must be very proud now. She helped your dad.
No. Like, you need to design the next product that's going to make you more money. And I'm like, that doesn't align with my values. She's like, what? She like, doesn't get that. You know? She's like, I don't care about your values. Just take money. No worries.
So I'd like to hear about some of the other companies in the room. So, Claudia, I'm going to start with you because I know you have a company. So tell us a little bit about your company.
Well, it's actually two companies. I graduated from design management at Pratt, and I definitely have to say that Pratt changed my life in a way. I'm an industrial designer, but after being at that program, really, all that you were speaking about, we need to realize that not only being smart is what it is. We need to have some knowledge of the market, how to manage business. So basically, my company, my two companies, one is event production, and the other one is museum and exhibitions. All is about strategic alliances. And you're right about being alone, you're right about being a partner, and I'm really too. You definitely need support. You definitely need more than a partner. It's at the beginning of your career is to have mentors and to have important people in life. You were one of the ones. I work for you at the Industrial Design Department.
Well, we share a mentor also.
Yes. Definitely. And definitely it helps your career and it helps you a lot in terms of also the network and the contacts. And that's crucial. You have a business. You definitely have to be open to relate to a lot of people. And networking is fundamental. And when you have a partner, it's important because you bring two worlds, and that's important. And when you have a mentor, or when you have something like a creator, it's really strong and important. I'm happy because I have that freedom that you were talking about. I do what I want in a way, because I have clients, so I have to do what almost things they need. But I put my signature in what I do, the way that I do it. And that's truly what makes me happy and meet every day I do what I do.
Anyone else with a business that they'd like to share if they do? Yeah, great.
So I am actually studying international development. Worked in Spain for 4 years, working on education quality improvement, worked in Spanish children. Then I went to Peru, sort of did similar work. Stumbled into a community which helped me to start my business, which is very centric. I ended up in Tanzania last year and said, so I say that to say that you can be extremely far removed from what you want to do, still do it, and like that's still a process for me. I found this very small, sort of tiny niche where two wheels in my lap. That's what so I'm able to use my skills from international development to create meaningful relationships, sustainable relationships, and also products that are really beautiful. It's not up to me. I'm not the one bringing the talent to the table. It's their beautiful handicraft that makes it a masterpiece. And I work with people to sort of bring contemporary design to balance that to make a product that's more at the same time. For us, my company, which is called My Rural, it's really all about the relationship and making sure that the communities are where they need to be. So, a lot of education, financial literacy, and all of that good stuff that you need to be an entrepreneur. So, our goal, or our mission, which is extremely important and really related to you when you're saying that, is to educate the artisans so that they're empowered to be designers and also entrepreneurs. So we don't have this relationship where you're the supplier, we're the middleman, and you sell to the retailer. It's much more intimate than that, which makes it gratifying. And I don't think I can do that in a way. And then I think also sort of unexpected things happen, as you guys talked about, which for me hasn't been like tons of press or anything. For the strange field that I work in, I think sometimes it's but it's this overlap with education, where I've educated people, but also providing educational opportunities. I was actually talking to some people during lunch. They said, like, I would love to be in a class at Pratt or MIT and have some master weaver from Peru come teach me how to weave. And that's what we're trying to bring to the table as well. We're also giving design students to work with us during the summer. So I'm preparing next week for another group to work with design students in person. So just those sort of that's just kind of like the gist of what I do. But I think that without the mission, because it's really defines how we operate, it would be absolutely possible. I paused for an entire year after my first trade show and only worked on my mission and my vision, and just really fun.
I think it's so important to have a clear vision statement or mission statement becomes this to-do list around the vision. And one of the things that we work with is really asking, what are you doing and who are you doing it for? Why is it important? Right? And if you can get that into 7 words, make quality products for people, empower women travelers, it all of a sudden really helps hone your decision-making process, because there's so much going on. It's sort of, what do I don't do? Well, it's just coming at you, and everything is, glittery and lovely, and you want to try everything, and how you essentially stay on the course, and having a strong vision set of mission statement. It just helps you, it just grounds you. And I've worked with both of you on those, and there is that moment where you kind of go, yeah, there I am. That's my field. And again, for anyone starting a business or in business, to step back and go, who am I, what am I doing, why am I doing it, why is it important? And for me, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, it's like, who am I? That is what you do, represent who you are. Make you proud of you. And that's also really, really critical. Now,
I'm a graduate here, 78, and back in the day, I would say this idea of having a business school was kind of really not just happening back in the day. For college training at that time, people were more tools in the industry. Right now, we're shifting to makers. Right? And it's an interesting thing, because I remember in school, we had the possibility in the classroom to get an assignment that had a real-world bearing, that would give the opportunity for students to use that creative intelligence they have in a way, rather than being doctrinaire. So I'm wondering where the institution stands on that point, because this seems to be a new trend incubator, and the idea of generating, using people's talent, but I don't think it's pedagogically central to Pratt's mission yet.
I don't think it's pedagogical to say, but I think it's just a little bit of what I'll talk about later as well, but it's really hard to learn to be a designer or an artist or an architect. There's a lot of work that goes into that. And it takes 4 years for an undergraduate or a graduate program to put the gloss on what they're doing. And it's hard to learn to be a business person at the same time. They're really different thought processes. I think it's really easy to learn. I think I don't think it's that dramatic a career. It's very straightforward. It doesn't change much. It all goes down to, will somebody buy this, right? It's pretty simple that way. There's obviously a lot of talent that has to surround that sale, and that's what the learning at Pratt, at Parsons, at FIT, whatever school you're going to, you're learning how to learn that talent. So Pratt's still, and I don't know about the other schools, but Pratt is still focused on teaching people to understand their talent and be able to go out and really advance the goal of the school year. As chair of the industrial design program, I saw a lot of great ideas turn into portfolio pieces and just evaporate. And it was that evaporation that I went, wait a minute, we've got to do something with that. And that was really how the incubator started. And its purpose was, you know, if there are marketable, really good ideas being developed in the context of ready to be a designer, that deserves another look in some action. That's basically what the incubator started.
This is one I would thought on this is that I would think that the institution has a moral responsibility over the years of developing people who populate the world in terms of design, arts, and everything like that in an unsustainable way. And I think the thing is that the way the profession has been,
right,
so the oldest professions have been, is you were an employee if somebody had.
Yeah, you're working for the man.
And this situation has created a world that's bloody, right, with products that are not sustainable. Right? So I think, you know, it's a very wonderful thing that you're taking this home, I think, that we're looking about sustainability. That's a wonderful thing.
Well, my role as academic director of sustainability really was this desire from the president of the institution to help integrate sustainability into the portfolios of all of our students. That they needed to go out into the world understanding what is next for us and changing it from, you know, this excuse of I go out there and people tell me what to do and produce and how to use my product. This is why I'm so excited about entrepreneurship, because you own it, right? And you can't blame it on anyone else. But you go and you work, and it's hard when you've got a business, and I think something you said about making those decisions before you get into sort of the flow of it. If you have a design consultancy or you have a business and you have 100 people working for you and you need to make payroll, and a job comes down the line that, you know, is a little bit not like the best thing, what do? Not pay your people, and there's a whole social consequence to that. And how do you take it on? My feeling in incubator here as an educational institution, that we're on what I think of as moon gravity. Earth gravity is like floating down. Moon gravity, you've got a little bit more ability to jump higher, flex, and not quite be pulled down so easily. And it's, you know, it's a complicated world out there. But at least what we need to be doing is making sure everybody's sort of out there understanding that there is this, it's not just about form and function of your industrial design, but it's form, function, and consequences, right? And that's design. And you're not going to get there all the time. None of our companies are absolutely there with it. They're trying, they're looking at it. It's a part of their decision-making process. They have a long way to go as they're thinking about it, they're concerned about it. That's what we need to be going after, with a critical eye and with knowledge. That I think is really it's what I'm all about within the context of the school. And so, yeah.
76, 77 graduated in the state line, and I just created a new mini practice.
A mini practice what?
Mini practice.
Okay.
I just built an entire mini art design school from scratch. Quite the big was. I've been working here like 40 years in New York. I graduated here. Graphic design, industrial design, no matter what comes out of it. The problem was, again, that John brought up, once you come out, you are a good designer. So when I was there, so in third year of industrial design and graphic design, I would have 2-hour class every week, professional practice and portfolio development. Because I knew, I've been here. I went through the whole process of building financial and typing my own stuff, making bills and collecting money. In New York, you have to do that. So I said, especially where this school I created, it's impossible for them to even think about it. So literally, right after graduating, about a year ago, my first graduating class came, and I was there back and forth, something back and forth for 6 years. For building the entire the campus, there was nothing there. So the huge university, and within that university, I got a chance to build school of art development. So there are 6 departments, but the essential part was why am I pointing it out here, was I found out that they need to get out and do it because people may not hire them. Right? Very simple, and especially the place where the industry is fledgling and bad design, everything, they think they can make it their own. And I would have to agree with them. That they're making money from making crap stuff. Do these designs. So I knew that, so I basically took courses in 30s when we were like, stable enough to understand what we're talking about. So right after graduating, they just went like, I said, what are you doing? You have our own license. They just went out, got together, a couple of people, a couple of guys, girl guys, or whatever, and they had this license. So the important part you guys did because you just had a gut instinct that everybody does. We all need training. So I call the graduates over there. I call them not graduates. I call them you are market ready professionals. They just say not. Oh, they're graduates. Graduate means you come around, shot here, run around here, kick down here. No. You give them that confidence that these guys already have.
But they are, you are all, and you're talking to how the world has shifted, both of you, from what it was when, we were graduating. And the goal was to go out and you worked for a design company. So, went into consultancy where there was a whole other layer of learning the craft of being a designer. And slowly it's transitioned into people want to bring someone in who they can bill out hours, with as quickly as possible. It's a real transaction, rather than sort of throwing somebody up through. And now, with all the tools that we have, with the internet, comes all sorts of access, but all the tools in the world that you need to take it on your own. And nobody's, there's 2 jobs out there, so you're forced to essentially, at some level, go out and take it on your own in some way. And I think it's critically important, what you're saying, is that people go out there understanding how to be an entrepreneur, how do you take your life on like an entrepreneur, whether you work for somebody else, whether you're in school and you're getting a degree, whether you're starting your own business, you need to be taking on your own life, because life is short. Right? As Tiffany is saying, you need to get out there and bring it to you and not wait for others. And you've got every tool in the world to make it happen. All you need is the passion. You combine those 2 things, and it's a great recipe for success. Hard work, but potential success. So, really great. I really wanted to hear from a couple of people who are starting businesses. Right? So, in a minute, I just want to, so who here is starting a business? Let's go back to that. Okay, so what are you doing? now you know where you're like, focus on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, my partner had to leave early, but Liz here, and we want to focus a lot. We have journalists and production background, and this whole idea of supply chain, which we focus on. We both lived abroad and traveled extensively, so I feel like I'm traveling and everything. And our goal is to tell the stories of the supply chain and to focus on the human connection to and remind people that it's humans that connect. So we want to do that through producing our own short films, to crowdsourcing from different platforms of social media, and eventually build software and application, and do essentially like an interactive map. So when you're shopping, you can follow the journey. So you're focused on your clothing? Yes. Yeah. Right now we want to focus strictly on the garment production.
And how are you going to monetize that?
What we want to do is that's what we're kind of still figuring out. We love the idea of having this applications API or the software that would actually then be bought and either subscribed or
something from actual brands, so that it would be on their websites, and you can monetize that as type of content. We also have this slightly taking it offline and stream of sharing trips and tours to the actual consumers who can take trips and tours that start locally and then grow country and
That's a popular model in the food world right now.
exactly, yeah. We
Food
want to go
tours
to
and
the
tropical farming.
it's kind of taking slow movement and applying it fashion, slow fashion.
I think there's a lot that's transferable from the slow food movement fashion side. You know, just to look at that as a model, you know, sort of farm to table and stuff, farm to body, you know, that kind of exploration.
Yeah.
Really
There's a nice tech back in there as well.
Yes, that's so.
Yeah, that's great.
I can see that being valuable for business brands, like
It's a
buying
good
time.
marketing tool. Well, for brands.
Well, that's what I think. So, I mean, monetize on, you know, really monetize that. Yeah, I would pitch it, you know, pitch them. That might be the only way that you can monetize it at first.
Yeah.
But you might become an expert in like digital life cycle assessments for brands. Who's doing that? You know, like digitally, all kinds of like cool interactive. That's cool. So
I think that's a really important question, which is this assumption that it's not out there yet, and the need when you start a business to really look at the landscape of who's doing what, and to go in and understand the industry as deeply as possible can, because it's amazing how much is out there that we don't see.
Go back to your mantra, why do we need that? That's all those things.
And speaking to that, why do you want to do it?
It's kind of been a culmination of years of thoughts, and Liz and I only been partners and known each other for 6 months, but kind of like our two lives of these separate lives came together and we're like, oh my god, you're my, it's that partnership. You're my person. You know, I bounced around like the developing countries and Europe and abroad and all these different types of locations and working with environmental sustainability and indigenous sustainability. And it just kind of all climbed and fit and it made sense and I was like, hey, this is actually what I wanted to do and never knew how to say, and that job did exist. And kind of that entrepreneurial idea to it doesn't seem to exist in all this other stuff.
Yeah. I just was sitting here realizing, oh, I know.
Yeah, I know.
Just moving that one step. But I did. And hi. Any other small businesses out there, startups, people who are really starting, you know, thinking about it, and have an idea that they want to put out there? You would agree.
I have a bag designer. I've been working, 10, 11 years. I kind of started a girl, and I worked all around. And I really passionate. I've done all sorts of bags. Luggage, bags, now I'm matching bags. And I just, the past couple of years, I took the sustainable design program at IT. I did the program to learn more about the business side and, you know, sustainability and oh, and I really want to do my own line. And I just, it's like this whole problem I have with like, I get so busy with work and then I don't know if I should stop working and just focus on this, you know? I mean, I should first work on my plan and start doing it, but it's just, I like this problem I have with my job, you know, it's like there's so much waste. It's fun, it keeps stuff, I do that to adjust it, so it's like, I'm actually designing, you know, which is like more than I can say, kind of hobby. But it's like not, it's just so much waste, and I feel like I'm just designing a bunch of junk. And I want to make a quality product, I'm a sustainably artisan, there's so many different things I want to implement into what I want to do on my own. It's just like figuring out how to do it all. So, and I have been like talking with manufacturing market people, and I'm working with designer, started, I wanted to kind of really launch in Brooklyn. I wanted to do that, but I just have to just do it. You know, I keep talking about this, and I'm like, I have to just like start making things. So that's where I'm at. And
I'll tell you when the professors here said they really want to be an artist and doing design work and they want to share it with art. He said, take a year and a half. He said, you're going to try to do it for a year and a half. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't work out, you won't spend the rest of your life kind of like, I should have been an artist. So that's just general. It has nothing to do with it because they're going to have lots to say about that. But again, now you've heard to take a chunk of time and go for it. So you don't regret your whole life never having done that. For, you know, when you're thinking about it.
And sometimes I think, just to say, and sometimes I know when I start my own business, I'm kind of excited about it because I feel like it's a whole different way of working, a whole different way of making things. And, you know, if I wanted to just create things like the way I do at work, I could just do that. Like I've done that forever, you know, design stuff and in China I did it made, but that's not what I want to do. I want to make things more locally. And I just sometimes I feel like I'm wasting time because I've spent so much time working in the industry for other people, like, and I just was wasting more time, like, doing the same thing, or like, have I wasted too much time?
Do you feel like you're learning still in the job you're in?
I feel like there are things I'm learning. I feel like, oh, I'm always right from here. I talk to you, but there's just this point where maybe there's just like breaking into something new. Like, how do I just go and stop doing that and do this, you know?
Jumping off the cliff.
Yeah.
You guys, help her out.
First, I want to say, like, I don't think that there is ever too late. I mean, I really don't. It's actually like, don't agree. I think you got it. I know that if you were. You got it. Yeah. But also, I think, like, you are saying, I think you know exactly that you should start doing this. But I don't think you need to quit your job right away, and especially if you're product, like fashion and product and stuff, I would just start with the website, start by making a couple product events out there, and it will be nights that you'll be doing that every time when you have your own company. And I really do encourage you. I do think like we all have teaching jobs, and if it's going to be really hard to just quit and start something new, I would say like do both for a little while, but start if that's what you want to start. Just start do it.
Yeah, I actually am I run the Design Your Life Like an Entrepreneur class for the entrepreneurship program, so I always get this question. I agree, don't quit your job, but you might quit your job with me, take on like a freelance. So try to, how can you make money while you're doing your passion? So you need to figure that out. Become very frugal. You could do that. I mean, like I had to scale back my lifestyle, and now like I have no more money, and I don't know what to do. I just like leave it. I'm like, oh, I'll just like save it for my business, you know, because I like lived frugally for 5 years. So I'm like, why I don't need that extra money. I don't buy food stuff myself. Ever hardly like as you get into this mindset, but you do like you have to train yourself to shift from working for somebody else and you know them supplying it's really like that comfort zone. So your like income, your benefits, all that stuff, to taking that on your own. So definitely like freelance or something that's not as difficult, so that you're not putting all of your energy throughout the day and then at night you're too tired. So I don't know, you can look at like Barnes & Noble during the day. I don't anything to just you know. So when you're at home, you can really focus on your passion. That's my suggestion. And that's what we all did. Yeah, that's what we did.
Greg, you and then you. 7.
No, I was going to say I 100% agree with that. I was more recently, as I got deeper and deeper into launching some of the newer ideas that I'm trying to develop, I spent like the last year first time living in New York and sort of going, how am I going to survive? Like, not in a developing country. And so I took some adjunct like teaching jobs, you know, and also I worked for a company that I really admired with similar work to, you know, it's an artist enterprise, so I learned a lot, but I did sales for them. So I wasn't like using all of my brain power to do something, and which I think is what you're saying, right? Like you don't want to be so drained at night. So I'm just like kind of at the register for 4 hours a week. And making some money, which is fine, you know, doing other freelance stuff. But I have the energy and the enthusiasm to really
I have been told that we're out of time and that we need to transition. But I want to offer for anyone who has more questions, or if you're interested in starting a business and want to talk to anyone in the incubator, or to people, you know, to me or anyone else who's involved, feel free to reach out. We'll have a little bit more in this next session around stewardship as well. But I really appreciate everyone being here. It's a really great conversation. And thanks so much.